Hey everybody, welcome back to another Dice Tower review. My name is Zeke Garcia.
I'm Mike Delicia.
And today we are taking a look at this game right here, Sapa Inca, which is a action selection kind of game.
Resource management, conversion.
Racing to 20 points kind of game. In this game, you're going to be selecting a character that's either in front of you or someone else, taking some stuff from that character, and then ultimately building these buildings trying to race up to 20 points. Let me just show you how it works. We'll come on back. We'll give you some thoughts. The objective of the game is to have the most victory points when the game is over, and the game end is going to be triggered when someone gets enough points to take them to or past 20 victory points on this track here. You're going to earn those victory points from building these buildings here. They will have a cost. You will collect goods and then play out these buildings, and they're going to give you a number of victory points. This one, for example, gives you 3. It also gives you a card, which is another building. That's what the backs of the buildings look like when you build this, and it gives you 1 point towards this category. If you have the most of that category, you might also then get a bonus card. There's a number of these available on the table, and they will be one of 2 things. They either give you 2 points, and if somebody later has more of this symbol than you, they'll take this away from you. Or they will have a single point per a different category of cards. And again, same thing. If somebody has more of these than you, they'll take this away from you, and they'll take whatever points apply to them for having that card. So how do you get this stuff, and how do you build those buildings? Well, everybody begins with 1 building in hand, and there will be 3 face up and available on the table, okay? So you can replenish your hand from those anytime you're supposed to draw one, or you can just draw one from the top of the deck. Starting from the start player, let's say that's me, I can, on my turn, do 2 things. The first one is I pick a character, and I will take whatever they give me. Second thing is I may build a building if I now have the resources necessary. Say 2 stone, 2 wood, bam, if I have this in my hand, I could build it. When you select a character, if it's a character in front of you, such as this character right here, I'm going to take whatever it lists, so 2 gold, and then I'm going to flip that character over, and then I go to step 2, build if I want to. If it's a character in front of someone else, I'll take whatever it gives me, 2 wood in this case, but then my opponent may do one of the 2 things. If it's this one, for example, I get to draw a building card and get 1 stone, they may do either one of them. Then this gets flipped, and then I may build a building. And then they'll go. And this player will perhaps select this one, and they'll take 2 stone, and this player over here takes 1 stone. This gets flipped, and now it's their turn. So the turns are very quickly going around the table. Once a single player has any cards face up in front of them, then the round is over. The start player token will go to them. So in this case, it goes right here to this player, and then we'll get rid of all of these character cards. We'll shuffle up the remaining ones here, and everybody gets 3 again. And of course, you will reshuffle if you ever don't have enough to give everyone 3. You'll just reshuffle the old discards into a new pile. This continues around the table, like I said, until somebody has enough points. The special abilities on these characters are pretty straightforward, all the resources and the card draw. There's also a couple of special words that you'll see on either the folks here or the buildings. And those are going to mean, this one here means build, meaning if I select this character, I get to draw 2 cards, and I get a bonus build above and beyond my normal 1 build per turn. And then this word here, which you'll see on some buildings and on some characters, means trade. And so when I build this building, or when I select a character that has that word as one of their 2 things, I get to trade 1 resource I own for a different resource out here. That's pretty much the game. Let's go ahead and go back up top. So this is a game that both Mike and I saw at the Essen Fair in Germany, and we were kind of walking by and saw it on the table. It looked interesting, and you mentioned that having watched maybe a couple of rounds happen on the table, I mean, just a couple of people really taking their turns.
Right.
You sort of pretty much knew what was going on and understood what was happening. And I would say that's fair. It's a very simple game.
It is, yeah. I think I remarked to you at the time, I'm like, do you feel like you know how to play the game already? And we're like, yeah. And so that's an interesting thing because I feel like lately, personally, I've been feeling like games are adding complexity for the sake of complexity.
Yeah.
And you certainly will not say that about this. It's very, very straightforward. The question is, does it have enough? You know what I mean? That's what I guess we're going to wrestle with a little bit.
A little bit. And it's not even about enough. It's about, maybe it is enough, but it's sort of like a hook. Does it have a hook? And does it do enough with that hook? If I had to argue what the hook is, it is that idea of we have random characters in front of us, and I can use my own, take both the things nobody else benefits, or I can use one in front of someone else. They get a little something, but I also fully benefit. And am I willing to do that if that happens to be the thing I need? You don't have that many turns in this game in the grand scheme of things, so why would I settle for something that gives me a resource or an action I don't need when the one I need is right there? I'm just helping you a bit with it,
Right.
you know?
Right.
That's a cool hook, and it's a neat idea. It's very smooth. The turns are very quick in this game.
Yes.
But those cards, the characters, do the same thing over and over and over. There's just not enough variety there.
That's the thing. I agree with you. I think the hook is that little, that little mechanism of, do the things on the card. If I choose someone else's, they get to do one of those things. That's great.
Yeah.
That's similar to other things, but I liked it, and I felt like it worked in the context of this game very well, which is basically just gathering resources to build buildings. But I agree that the variety is not there in a number of different ways. Many of the building cards are essentially the same. Like there's multiple versions of the same buildings. The characters are not very varied, 2 gold, 2 stone, 2 wood, or 1 gold and a power. And there's really only 2 powers. You can trade or get an extra build. And so I guess that's where it comes back to. It certainly makes it easier to teach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a game I feel like I could teach to really almost anybody.
Right.
But I do feel like I wish there was a little bit more, a little bit more variability in the game, because I just feel like once you've played it, you've kind of seen it. I don't think there's anything else that this game will show you beyond even your first game.
There's a few games out there, and this is not even something I necessarily gravitate towards, but there's a few games out there that do the whole family mode, and then if you want to, you can shuffle in these cards for like advanced mode. My goodness, if ever a game was begging for that to be part of the core box, this one right here.
Yeah.
Because I don't even mind what's going on. No. Again, in the basic mode here is fine. And I would do that a couple times. But if there was a deck of buildings or a deck of characters that you utilize by shuffling into the characters or using that as your like deck B of characters with juicier powers, a little more going on, some just, I don't know, more interest, it would really liven this game up.
It would.
As it is right now, the abilities are, like you said, trade, one for a different thing, or the extra build, which is not much of a power, but okay, extra build, you get a free build, so you'd have to really be putting down the little buildings. And that kind of makes sense. It is a race to 20 points. So the main thing is that the game is ultimately flat. It's not uninteresting.
Right.
It's just flat.
Right. Because there is even a bit of a set collection element to it that we didn't really discuss, where you've got kind of these bonuses, and then you can get scoring based upon how many of a particular icon you have, things along those lines. But even that felt strangely flat. It just didn't have any ebb or flow, other than, the kind of the core of the scoring is that you can gain and lose points. It is, like you said, essentially a race to 20. And as cards can be taken from you, basically, if you gain more of a particular symbol than somebody else, you can take a bonus card from them. That might lose them points and gain you points, which would be troublesome to me. But when we were first playing it, I was like, I don't know if I like this gaining and losing points. But you pointed out, it's very true, that all of those points are trackable. It's right there in front of you, and that's essential. Yeah. If it wasn't like that, if everything wasn't open scoring, that would be more troublesome to me. And so that's not. But it still didn't lead to the kind of tension and drama that I expect I would want in a game where you're racing and things can ebb and flow like that.
There's no aha or gotcha moments.
Right.
if there were characters that allowed for that or buildings that allowed for that, I don't know. I feel like that would be a little more interesting. A surprise. Nothing was much of a surprise. It's like, oh, okay, you have that. You got one more symbol in that now than I do.
Right.
Okay, but that's to be expected. That's gonna happen. Just a little more pizzazz, again, I think would have gone a long way. So the game does what it sets out to do well. Does it seamlessly, and I think it does it pretty effortlessly, which is nice. I'm just not sure I like what it sets out to do. And I wish it set out to do something a little more ambitious, I suppose. So for me, I'm going to come in at a 6. This is a game I did not dislike, but it is one that I think ultimately will be pretty forgettable. It's a game that maybe, if it does well, I could see it getting an expansion, and maybe that expansion would give me what I need. A little more. Something to bring it back to the table, to leave me thinking about the game I just played once I've packed it up and put it back on the shelf. But as it is now, all my thought and all of my emotions get packed up with it and reside on the shelf with it as soon as I'm done playing. So, a 6 for me.
Yeah, I am also coming in at a 6 for similar, kind of from a similar mindset in that I feel like the game itself is fine. It's good. It kind of has an old school feel to it. That's all the way down to the components. And everything else, it kind of feels like a relatively unassuming old school Euro game. And it's, again, a breeze to teach, a breeze to play, very, very quick. But it just doesn't quite do enough. It's also basically themeless, but if you are going to throw a theme on there, I like this one. I like, you know, the look of it was fine and everything as far as the art on the cards and such. But it just falls short. It's just not something I feel like I ever need to come back to. I struggle to think who do I recommend this to, right? Who's the target for this? Is it someone that likes simple games? Well, I know probably a number of other games of this weight that I would recommend more because they have a little bit more dynamism to them. This is just, I keep coming back to that word flat, which is a bit of a abstract word I get, but there's... For a race game, it doesn't have any of that, like, ooh, tension, you know, that I'm looking for. It just was kind of there. It was fine.
I think, I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but I think I would recommend it to gamers who are not too demanding of the mechanisms of their games.
Okay.
Who like this theme, actually.
All right.
I think the one thing that stands out here is you like the Inca setting or theme. And you don't really care about the game. That's what I mean, you know?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I like this. I collect games that have this setting or this theme. The game, I don't really care about that much.
All right.
Other than that, I mean, there's other games that will do what this does mechanically better, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. 2 6s for Sapa Inca. It's all right.
It's good. It's fine.
That's going to do it, folks, for us on this one. My name is Z Garcia.
I'm Mike Delisio.
We'll see you on the next one. Collect all your goodies and build your buildings right.
That's right.